Welcome to the cutting edge of the global awakening.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence by the military-industrial complex.
Well, it looks like the North Tower of the World Trade Center has just completely collapsed.
The U.S. dollar's status as the preeminent reserve currency is under attack.
This is a mathematical fact. Tens of trillions of dollars are being extracted from the United States of America.
You really want the truth? Then just follow the money.
Welcome to Follow the Money Radio, a broadcast dedicated to your personal, spiritual, and financial liberty. And now, here's your voice of reason in the midst of global chaos, economist and best-selling author, Jerry Robinson.
Greetings, friends all around the world. So glad that you're joining us this Saturday morning. Hope you're having a wonderful weekend. We are on the web at ftmdaily.com. I encourage you to go check out our website. If you have not been there recently, we have news and videos and lots of information, lots of good links on the front page of our website. Also, for those of you who are not receiving our daily email, I encourage you to go sign up for that. You can go to ftmdaily.com/email and receive our daily email, which we are getting lots of feedback on because in fact, I got a response from somebody the other day who said, Jerry, I was receiving about 5 or 6 different emails from different news sources trying to stay up with everything, and your email does it all in one fell swoop. So he was able to unsubscribe from those other news services, which, uncluttered his email inbox. And if you're like me, that's always a good thing, unclutter that email inbox, because so many people today get your email and then they just send you junk over and over and over. And so anytime you can delete somebody from your list of the emails you're receiving, it's a good thing, at least especially when you have a lot of emails coming in. And so good news on that. And I want to encourage you, if you're not already receiving our email, go to ftmdaily.com/email and sign up for that completely free daily newsletter, and encourage other people to do the same thing. We are getting the information that needs to be in people's hands out. And many times what you'll notice in the mainstream media, and this is something we notice here at our office as we put together this newsletter every single day that goes out, there is so much fluff in the news today. I mean, it's always been that way, but never before have we seen the amount of fluff in the news. And it's to the point now where you have to learn how to read between the lines. Sometimes you're just staring at a press release that's been put out by some government or by some corporation, and it's passing off as news. And so what we do is we dissect these news stories before we put them in our email and send them out, and we try to keep all the fluff out. A lot of the fluff that was occurring this week was occurring with what was happening at the Senate with Ted Cruz. And Ted Cruz conducted a 21-hour marathon talkathon where he was, quote-unquote, filibustering the Obamacare and the spending bill. And it turns out that now we have the Senate that has passed a resolution that has placed Obamacare back into the mix and has sent it back to the House. And if no action is taken by Monday, then the government will shut down. We also got word from Treasury Secretary Jack Lew earlier this week that the government has enough money to fund operations until October 17th. Now, that was pretty interesting. That was in a letter sent to John Boehner, the House Speaker, by Jack Lew, the Treasury Secretary. And we usually don't see specific dates given, but October 17th is the day that the government coffers run dry, so to speak, according to the Treasury Department. And so, therefore, something has to give. Well, the Senate has passed a bill and sent it to the House that will fund the government until November 15th, getting us past that October 17th date. And now it remains to be seen how the House will respond. We will see what happens. I tell you what, when I saw Cruz standing up for 21 hours going against all odds, against every rhino, which we would call Republican in name only, and actually standing there on conservative principles, I have to admit, I felt a lump in my throat. Because here was a guy, regardless of what you think of him, regardless of what you think of his politics, regardless of what you think of him as a person. Here is a man who was taking a very big stand. Now, remember, he's one of the top 100 most powerful people in the world belonging to the club known as the U.S. Senate. And as such, he is a very powerful man. There are very few people in the world who carry more power than a U.S. senator. And Ted Cruz was taking that power, and he was using it and turning it against the White House and turning it against his own party, who in many ways doesn't appear any differently than the Democratic Party. And so it was a very interesting situation. Whenever I saw this happening, one of my very first comments was, this is going to change something. Normally when we see events like this and we see filibustering and we see silliness going on in Washington and we see, squabbling, oftentimes it's not really going to lead to anything. However, I have to say, and even though I'm not a politic, I don't like to get into politics too much because remember what I always say here on the show, follow their actions, don't follow their lips. They may say all kinds of things, but watch what they do. And therefore, we don't pay attention to everything that every politician says. If we did, then we would be constantly chasing our tail. We focus on what they do. And that information, unfortunately, is fairly disheartening compared to what they say. Now, Ted Cruz stood before the Senate and attempted to gain enough support within his own party to rip out the funding of Obamacare from the overall spending bill and budget that will have to be passed. Now, we don't know exactly how all of this will go down from here. We'll have to see what happens in Washington on, of course, over the weekend and into Monday. But nevertheless, very interesting things to watch, as certainly as it impacts your money. One thing that we have not seen as much as we normally have in the past is the price of gold. Price of gold and silver, they bounced this week. In fact, it's the second week in a row that gold has risen, but not to the levels that we have seen in previous debt debate fights. So we're watching, keeping our eyes on gold to see what's going to happen with it, especially as we head into the end of the year. News coming out now that China has replaced India as the world's #1 gold buyer. And that actually is fairly good news. Also, we got news out of Turkey that that central bank had purchased 23 tons of gold in August. Therefore, we see the continual movement by central banks, not just the large ones like the ECB and some of the other different banks, but we're also seeing some of these smaller central banks still continuing to be net buyers of gold. Very interesting and very telling situation. Now, in front of me, I have a whole stack of news that I really want to get to and comment on. Certainly what's happening with Iran and the United States. I want to comment on this. Also, a very bizarre interview with Bashar al-Assad, the president of Syria. I want to just kind of dissect that a little bit. We also have news that Russia and China are holding large-scale war games. Merkel won the big German election. The U.S. is ending a long-running silver market probe. Alan Greenspan has issued a grim economic warning. The Israelis and the Palestinians are moving towards a final status agreement. I mean, we just have tons of information here we're going to go over. But first, before we do all that, I want to bring on Tom Cloud, have him give you an update on gold and silver. Jennifer will be here with our Trigger Trade report, as well as Jay Peroni, certified financial planner, will be here with an investing idea of the week. So we have a whole lot for you today. So stand by for your precious metals market update. Hi friends, Jerry Robinson here. Many of you know that I have been running several successful online businesses for years. And one of the things that I like about doing business online is that it's cheap. In fact, anyone can get started simply by purchasing a domain name and a web hosting plan. But how exactly do you get started? Well, just go where I go, dirtcheapwebhosting.net. That's right, dirtcheapwebhosting.net. It does not matter what you're looking for because they have it all. Domain names as low as $1 $1.99. Web hosting plans as low as $3.99 per month. And you can even start your own online store for as little as $9.99 per month. And if you need help building your own website, just use their free design wizard and you can be up and running in no time with your very own beautifully designed website. Friends, it's time to get online. Start a blog, start an online business, start something. Log on now to dirtcheapwebhosting.net and get your own website set up right now for just a few dollars per month. dirtcheapwebhosting.net. Everything you need to get started online, only cheaper.
Follow the Money Weekly presents your precious metals market update. Here's Tom Cloud.
This is probably the quietest week we've had in quite a while. We do notice that Russia, central banks in Russia and China are continuing to accumulate physical gold as fast as they can. And we've seen Jim Rickards, the author of the best-selling book, The Currency Wars, coming out this week and predicting a very serious crash in the dollar next year when it breaks 78 on the world index. He thinks it won't slow down until it gets to 72, and that is corresponding exactly what James Sinclair is saying, that we literally are in the last year of things we've talked about for some period of time coming true, and that is the U.S. dollar will just be weighted down. We just continue to compound. We have the filibustering going on in Congress by Senator Cruz and Rubino and trying to get this thing done both on the Obama health care and getting the debt ceiling raised. And, of course, Obama's trying to get the debt ceiling raised with little fanfare, considering he's already spent over $2 trillion in 25 months since it was raised last time, and he was hoping it never would have to be raised again. It lasted 2 years. If there's anyone out there that thinks you can print $1 trillion a year plus out of thin air and not devalue currency, we're hanging on literally by a thread. People don't like to hear it, but if you're not making, arrangements for bad economic times right now, you're making huge mistakes and buying in to the political junk that things are getting better and the economy's good, because certainly that's not the case at all. So hopefully you'll use this time to continue to evaluate. And as James Rickards said in his article this week, is literally with the race on for the physical gold, they would like to see gold stay lower for a little while longer. We continue to hit the brick wall when the United States will not deal with how much gold we have in Fort Knox. We tried hard to get an audit when Ron Paul was congressman for 20-something years, never could get it through Senate to have an audit. Haven't had one since George Bush Sr. was president. And many people believe, and I'm beginning to fall that way too, that our gold has all been shipped to the east to make up for all the inequities of what we've done with the German gold and certainly the Treasury bill purchases that are going on by Japan and China that both have over $1 trillion in Treasury. So we've got to watch this thing, and like I said, it is kind of a quiet week. Everything is trading in a narrow range, but one thing I hope that the listeners didn't do is buy in. We saw gold skyrocket after there was no quantitative easing, and then the debate started on Obamacare and the debt ceiling, and right on cue, one of the Federal Reserve members came out and said, well, we didn't taper, we lied to you for 4 months, but now we really are going to taper before the end of the year. And then gold went back down. Of course, all of this is planned specifically for these governors to come out and say this because they're fighting and are wanting the public's sentiment to say, yes, raise the debt ceiling. Things are better. Don't you know the Federal Reserve that's printing over $1 trillion a year, buying their own treasuries because nobody else will, is better off. Now, certainly I hope our listeners have a lot better sense and think we're better off. Another one that's real worth watching is palladium. On the charts looks very strong, and if the weather continues to look bad in Siberia, as it has now about 10 days, unless there's a reprieve, we should see palladium moving up. And we do have a special right now on some COMEX 1 ounce palladium bars for those that are interested. So hopefully we'll have more. Jerry and I are planning a more in-depth interview in the next couple of weeks as this debt ceiling situation gets close. So if any of you need to talk to me, you can reach me at 800-247-2812. That's 800-247-2812. If you're not signed up for our email blast, you can do that by going to ftmdaily.com and hitting the precious metals button and sign up. And we keep it completely confidential, and information we try to send something out at least every other day. So with this week's Precious Metals Market Update, this is Tom Cloud signing out.
Hey friends, this is Jerry Robinson from Follow the Money Weekly. Recently, we have been receiving many emails from our listeners commenting on the great help they're getting from our precious metals expert, Tom Cloud. Gold and silver are excellent hedges against the growing threat of coming U.S. inflation. Who's your gold guy? Make it Tom Cloud. With over 30 years experience with precious metals, Tom will answer all of your questions. Don't buy your gold and silver through some call center and pay inflated prices. Call my good friend Tom Cloud and speak directly with him and get all of your questions answered. For a limited time, Tom is offering free shipping and insurance on every gold and silver purchase made by our listeners. Call 800-247-2812. And when you do, tell him that Jerry Robinson from Follow the Money Weekly sent you, and he'll throw in that free shipping and insurance on your entire order. Call your gold guy, Tom Cloud, right now for the very best deals on gold and silver coins. 800-247-2812. That is 800-247-2812.
With this week's Trigger Trade Report, I'm Jennifer Robinson. Trigger trading activity was slower than usual due to sluggish markets this week, as seen by the S&P 500, which was down nearly 1% for the week. We did, however, add 2 stocks to our trigger trading portfolio this week, including ticker symbol AMBA, which was up 4.5% in a single trading day, and ticker symbol EPL, up 3% over the course of the week. We still have 5 stocks in play, including ticker symbol EGOV and ticker symbol GILD. And 2 stocks are still awaiting Jerry's trigger price. Trigger trading is a service we offer to all of our FTM insiders, in which they receive a trading idea every single day, including trigger price, stop loss price, commentaries, and status updates every single day. To learn more, visit ftmdaily.com/trigger trade.
Jay Peroni, certified financial planner, here with the idea of the week. This week we'll take a look at how all it takes is one home run to create a winning portfolio. If you can take action on just one idea that doubles, triples, or quadruples your money, it can help you crush the market. Since 2009, our research at Faith-Based Investor and Wall Street Renegade has been helping investors find triple-digit winners. In the world of investing, the rule of 72 is very helpful to figure out how long it will take you to double your money. To figure out how long it will take the number 72 and divide it by the rate of return to obtain the approximate number of years required for your money to double. For example, if you get a 10% rate of return, it will take approximately 7.2 years for your investment to double. Get a 20% rate of return, and it takes a little over 3 years. With our stock picks at Wall Street Renegade, I look to double our subscribers' money much faster. For example, with Tesla Motors, ticker symbol TSLA, it took less than 3 months. With 3D Systems, ticker symbol DDD, it took less than a year. With Lifetime Brands, ticker symbol LCUT, it only took 18 months. And with CVR Energy, ticker symbol CVI, it took about 2 years. Now, these are just a few of the triple-digit winners from our Wall Street Renegade VIP service. Since 2009, I've found 26 companies that have returned 100% or more in 3 years or less. These opportunities are what I call home run stocks. After I picked Tesla Motors as a home run stock, it shot up like a rocket and returned over 400% in less than 6 months. Currently in our Wall Street Renegade portfolios, we have dozens of recommendations that have great potential to return similar gigantic gains. Right now is the perfect environment for making a lot of money in today's market, and you can get in on the ground floor on some of our next winning picks that we only share with our subscribers. This week, for example, I released 10 new picks to our VIP subscribers that could produce 10%, 20%, 50%, or even 100% or more over the next 12 months. Now, I know every pick cannot be a winner, but if you can find triple-digit winners regularly, it sure helps boost performance. For example, as of September 26th, our Contrarian Strategies portfolio has been our number one portfolio in 2013, up almost 44% for the year. Want to know why the strategy is up so much? We can thank Tesla Motors and its 409% gain for the great performance. We bought the stock at $37 a share in March, and in a little over 6 months later, the stock is now trading at $188 a share. Just one stock like this, and it helps all the other positions in the portfolio look much better. This is Jay Perrone, Certified Financial Planner, signing off for the Idea of the Week. We'll see you again next week.
All right, well, Jay Perrone is a CFP, Certified Financial Planner, a member of our Christian Financial Advisor Network, and he also manages our very own PACE investment portfolio. If you would like to have a free 30-minute review of your investments with Jay, you can call him at 888-664-6963. That's 888-664-6963. And when you do, be sure to tell him you heard about him on Follow the Money Weekly Radio.
News is breaking out of D.C. this morning. The House will vote on plan to keep government open and to stop Obamacare. A statement is being released this morning by House Speaker John Boehner, along with some other leaders from the Congress. The American people, the statement says, do not want a government shutdown, and they do not want Obamacare. I would say that's very true. That's why later today the House will vote on 2 amendments to the Senate-passed continuing resolution that will keep the government open and stop as much of the president's health care law as possible. The first amendment delays the president's health care law by 1 year. They're going to vote to delay the implementation of Obamacare for 1 year. The second amendment permanently repeals Obamacare's medical device tax that is sending jobs overseas. This has been a very contentious and controversial tax that has been buried in the Obamacare bill, and it appears that the House is now voting to permanently repeal that from the Obamacare law. The statement continues, both of these amendments will change the date of the Senate continuing resolution to December 15th, which we had said at the beginning of the show the Senate had voted and it was going to be November 15th. We will also vote on a measure that ensures our troops get paid. Now, that was a real big deal. Senator Tom Coburn from Oklahoma had come out earlier in the week saying the GOP was going to fold on this, especially whenever people began complaining about military pay not going out when the government shut down. But it appears they've put the finger in the dike on that particular issue. And then the statement concludes, we will do our job and send this bill over, and then it's up to the Senate. Oh, they're playing a game here. It's up to the Senate to pass it and stop a government shutdown. So first it was up to the House to do something. Now the ball is back in the court of the Senate. This may lead, friends, to a government shutdown. We've seen this before back in the Republican Revolution. Remember the Newt Gingrich contract with America, 1995, 1996. A lot of things were riding on that, and the government did shut down. And we have lived through a government shutdown before. This would be a very interesting timing for a government shutdown, considering all of the bad PR that America has been receiving due to its economic demise, and these fears that America is losing power on the global political stage. And now just to have a government shutdown, I mean, that would not be good. Nevertheless, is Obamacare good? Do we want to see Obamacare implemented? I don't. I'd love to see them reverse this bill. Not because I don't want people to have health care, but because I believe that this particular system is just another death grip that the federal government has upon the American people. It just gives the government way too much power. When did the government become an insurance company? When did the government become... Well, they became an insurance company, I should answer my own question, in 1935, whenever FDR decided to pass the social insurance contract with America, that is Social Security. You give us your money, we'll manage it properly, and then we'll give it back to you whenever it's time for you to retire. And so millions of people, began paying into that. And over the course of time, the numbers, statistics have changed. It just doesn't look the same way. Back in 1950, the chances of a male who was age 21 at that time living to the age of 65 was just 50-50. You had a 50-50 chance of making it to 65. So it was a good deal on the part of the government. They were able to pay on the people who actually did beat the odds and made it to 65 and beyond. And yet that was a fairly small number compared relatively to today, where many people are living past 65. And today, if you live to age 65 and you're a male, I think the most recent statistics are that you have a higher chance now of living all the way to age 87. So, this Social Security situation is becoming outrageous, and now they want to take control of health care after they have botched so many other programs? I just can't believe it. So, yes, I'd love to see Obamacare defunded. I'd love to see the federal government get out of the insurance business. But, it's a tough job in Washington. I feel for these guys as I see what they're trying to do. They're trying to lead the world's largest political, economic, military empire in all of world history. I mean, this is it, friends. You are living in the pinnacle of history. Doesn't that sound arrogant? Doesn't that sound egomaniac even, to say you are living at the pinnacle of history? Friends, there has never been a nation on the face of the planet that has had this much power concentrated into itself. So America is enormous. Its influence is unreal. Any student of history can look at what the United States has accomplished and realize that we live in a very different time compared to all of known recorded history. Doesn't mean that we're better. It certainly doesn't mean that we're better. In fact, it probably means the opposite than our historical predecessors. But nevertheless, we do live in the most powerful empire in all of world history. Never before has this much power existed in one nation. And obviously, nations around the world are jealous of that power. They want that power. It's human nature to desire what you don't have and to covet what you don't have, and they want what we have. What do we have? Well, we have the ability to print our own money. We have the ability to print our own money and then use it to practically buy anything around the world. See, other countries have the ability to print their own money. And some people don't understand why that's such a big deal. I mean, anybody can print their own money. Why does the Federal Reserve make such a big difference in our country, considering other countries have printing presses as well? Well, we've talked about this over and over again, friends, and don't forget that it is the demand that exists for the U.S. dollar that makes our printing press so powerful. It's not the fact that we can create it. You can create it all day long, but if nobody wants it, then it's not going to go into general circulation. We have the unbelievable, noxious combination of having a printing press and then having a insatiable appetite and demand for what that printing press creates. And as long as that system continues, our life is going to be enviable by the rest of the world. They are going to want the position that we have obtained. That's what they want. That's why you see Russia and China, India, Brazil, and now South Africa and others aligning themselves in an attempt to counter the great economic power and military might of the United States. And the United States is on the ropes. That is, of course, the thesis of this program, the thesis of our website, the thesis of my book, Bankruptcy of Our Nation. America is on the ropes, and we are bankrupt. There's a story that came out this week. Alan Greenspan, the Fed chairman from 1987 to 2006. It appears he has another book coming out. His first book made a lot of waves, The Age of Turbulence, when he blamed practically the entire war in Iraq on oil. And that ruffled a lot of feathers because the whole, the talking points coming out of Washington, D.C. were, no, it's not about oil. It's about the freedom of the Iraqi people. Well, Greenspan didn't get the memo, apparently. He puts out the fact that everybody knows this is about oil. And then later on, everybody begins to buckle and admit, yes, the Iraq war was about oil. But he's putting out another book now. It comes out October the 22nd on the Penguin Press. It's called The Map and the Territory: Risk, Human Nature, and the Future of Forecasting. And I'm just going to read you a couple of excerpts that have been sent over to us. It says, our highest priority, this is Greenspan writing, our highest priority going forward is to fix our broken political system. Short of that, there is no viable long-term solution to our badly warped economy. Isn't that something? He goes on. This, of course, was the man who led the Federal Reserve back in 1987. His first year he comes in and the market crashes. Remember that? That was pretty insane. What did he do? Well, he cut rates. He printed money. It became the Greenspan Doctrine. That's what Greenspan always did. And Bernanke came in and did the same thing. When problems arise, you cut rates and print money. It's become the world doctrine today at most central banks. But Greenspan was really the initiator of this print and cut interest rate idea. We call it the Greenspan Doctrine. Let's see. Okay, so he goes on and says, he talks about the Tea Party, blaming them and saying, well, they came into Washington and they've caused a big disruption. Then he says, at risk is the status of the American economy as the preeminent world economic power for more than a century. And he goes on to say that is now at risk. So he's coming out and sounding an alarm. Greenspan, not a surprise to see him out making noise right about now, considering that we are going to have to see a shift soon in the Fed chairman. That's making news. We have been hearing that Yellen is going to be replacing Bernanke. There are also rumors, you should know, that Bernanke is going to stay on. That would be very interesting if he ends up doing that. So we'll be keeping our eyes on that, because whoever replaces Bernanke, whether it's himself or whether they bring on Yellen or someone else, it's going to have tremendous impact upon you as a precious metal investor, as a real estate investor, as any kind of investor. It'll be important for you to know, how that goes down. Okay, I've got my stack of stuff here. You can probably hear it in the background. I've got tons of stuff that I want to go over, so let's just run through these very quickly. Do you ever feel like you are so blessed to be living in the time that we're in, and at the same time you almost feel cursed? I was watching episodes of Andy Griffith the other day. I had some free time on my hands, and I was just laying on the couch, and I said, I'm just going to watch some old reruns, black and white. And I watched Andy Griffith, and I thought, what happened to that world? What happened to that world of innocence? Of course, it probably never existed. But it certainly was not as complicated then as it is now. Yes, there were complications, but the means of destruction were more limited. Today we have rogue elements all over the world. We have an arms industry that has got completely out of control. We have terrorist groups being funded by sovereign governments. It's not a game anymore. This is very real where we are. And so when we see headlines come out and we see reports coming from different countries, and they all begin to tell a story, we want to pay very close attention. And this week we have such a story emerging. First of all, we had a very large-scale war game going on in Russia, across Russia and across much of Asia. 13,000 Russian and Belarusian troops and 40,000 Chinese troops spread out across the continent of Europe, Asia, as they conducted a massive military exercise to test new weaponry that they have. NATO military forces announced Eastern European war games from November 2nd to the 9th as a way to counter these China and Russia war games. Poland reported that there was a mock nuclear attack drill going on in Warsaw, which was very quickly batted down by the Russian military. They denied the report. However, there was a secondary report that came out confirming it as well, that this was not just a regular war game testing out weaponry, but in fact this was to prepare them for either a nuclear attack upon themselves or the launching of a nuclear attack. That is not clear at this point. Regardless, they are preparing for nuclear war. So Russia and China preparing for nuclear war with who? Who in the world would they be going to nuclear war with? Well, for a long time, we've said here on this program that we believe that the West is eventually going to come head-to-head with China, Russia, and many of these countries. They are extremely upset at the West, as we've already talked about. But even more so, we're seeing countries like Brazil, which are leveraging the revelations of Edward Snowden and the NSA, and they are making a huge stink of it, as well as I probably would if I found out that my nation was being bugged and tapped and monitored and snooped on by the United States without any kind of good reason. So now Brazil is piping mad. Venezuela also very angry, as they have been for some time. And now there were revelations this week that the NSA had placed a huge target upon the Indian government in India. So now you have Brazil angry. You have India very upset about the NSA revelations that they're hearing now. And then, of course, China and Russia were already aligned against the U.S. and the U.S. dollar with a long-term plan, no doubt, to destroy the dollar. So you have all these countries that are being given or almost handed excuses to hate the United States. So not only do they want to take their place, but they also are given reason by our own conduct to hate us. Let's move over to Europe for a minute, because in Europe, Angela Merkel, who is the German chancellor, retook the office. She won the vote for re-election. And this was pretty big news. This was her third term as the leader of Europe's biggest economy. And this was a very closely watched election because the anti-Euro sentiment has been rising something fierce in Germany. And the fact that she was able to sail into power, to win the re-election, and to do so in a landslide was pretty big news. Also reports out this morning that the head of the Golden Dawn Party in Greece has been arrested, as well as two other legislators from the Golden Dawn. The Golden Dawn Party in Greece is a very strongly anti-immigrant party that has become the third largest party in Greece, and it is a party to watch. If you have not been paying attention to the Golden Dawn Party in Greece, check it out. Just Google Golden Dawn Greece, and you will see a very angry mob of Greek flag-holding thugs walking through the streets terrorizing immigrants. They want their country back. Greece is for Greeks, is what they say, and they are tired of the Turkish immigrants and the immigrants from other countries from northern Africa coming in and taking their jobs. So we are seeing tremendous violence and tremendous angst growing in Greece. In fact, the reason that the head of the Golden Dawn Party was brought in and arrested was because he is being indicted in, or at least allegations are arising that he was involved in orchestrating a murder of a rapper in Greece who was anti-Golden Dawn, in essence. So Germany and Greece both making big news this week, keeping our eyes on both of those countries. In the Middle East, we have several things occurring. The Israelis and the Palestinians, a very bold remark coming out today, or this week, from John Kerry regarding the talks in the Middle East between the Israelis and the Palestinians. He says, "I will tell you that all of the issues are on the table. Territory, security, refugees, Jerusalem, all of the final status issues are on the table. And more importantly, we are not seeking an interim agreement. We are seeking a final status agreement." This is telling us that we are moving very quickly towards a peace agreement between the Israelis and the Palestinians. When I saw John Kerry begin to make his move towards peace and security, as they say over and over and over again in their speeches. Peace and security, peace and security. Ironically, that's exactly what the Bible has to say. 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 3, I believe, says, when they shall say peace and security, then sudden destruction will come upon them. Have you ever noticed how many times they say it? We need to put a video together or an audio together of all, it's like a little montage of all the peace and security statements that go on from these guys. But when I saw Kerry begin to make his move towards peace in the region, and I saw that Zippy Livni was involved on the Jewish side, and I saw that some of the other negotiators on the Palestinian side were a bit more docile than they had been in the past, I, for the first time in a long time, believed that we could be on the verge of a real peace agreement between the Jews and the Palestinians. Now, I don't know how it'll all work out, and I don't know if this one will even work. But the fact is, we are that much closer to something like that happening, and the fact that we now have the United States and Iran on talking terms. We haven't had this since 1979, when we were trying to negotiate with the terrorists over the hostages that had been taken in the U.S. Embassy in Tehran. But there was a lot of buildup with this United Nations meeting that was held in New York City over the week. Now, the media was asking, will the United States president and the Iranian president shake hands at the United Nations? Well, they didn't. However, meetings were held, the highest level meetings that have been held since 1979. And then, just yesterday, we got word that President Rouhani from Iran made a phone call to the White House and spoke directly with the United States president. Again, this is the first direct conversation between the leaders of Washington and Tehran since 1979. And the leader of Iran appears to have quite a bit of leeway with the supreme leader of that country in making peace over the nuclear issue that has been dogging the United States and Iran for some time. The call lasted for 15 minutes, according to Susan Rice. She characterized the phone call as cordial and constructive, and Obama said that he believes an agreement is possible regarding Iran's nuclear ambitions that could lead to better relations. Wow. Who would have saw this coming not too long ago? So Iran now talking peace with the West, Israel and the Palestinians moving towards final status negotiations, Syria now, a resolution being passed at the UN demanding that their chemical weapons be handled. And then you have the Syrian President Bashar al-Assad giving a very bizarre interview with the Hezbollah newspaper Al Akhbar. I got some clips from this, or I don't have any audio clips, but I have just some quotes that I want to read you. This is such a bizarre interview. As I was reading through this in the Jerusalem Post, I just didn't understand where he was going. I mean, he says here, we now possess deterrent weapons that are more important and more sophisticated than chemical weapons. And he emphasized that he had no need for chemical weapons. In fact, he says here, we created chemical weapons in the 1980s as a deterrent against Israel's nuclear arsenal. Today, it's no longer a weapon of deterrence. And then he goes on and makes this statement, we have weapons that are now more important and more sophisticated to challenge Israel, which we can blind in an instant. In Syria, there are thousands of tons of chemical weapons that have become a burden to us, since their destruction costs a great deal of money and could take years to destroy. They also create environmental challenges and others that would need solving. So the UN inspectors should come and just take them, unquote. So this is really quite a turn of events. Now we have Syria saying, yeah, we got chemical weapons and they're a big problem. Come and take them because we have something better. It's like walking up to a thief or someone who's broken in your house, and you ask him for his knife that he's holding in his hand, and he says, that's fine, you can have the knife because I have a gun, right? So this is very bizarre. I mean, the fact that Assad would be talking like this, I mean, the man should really keep his mouth shut. He's got a gun pointed to his head, and yet he's talking very boldly, making statements as if, yeah, you can take my chemical weapons because I have something that is much greater than chemical weapons. So, again, very, very strange. And then he's also talking about his unprecedented collaboration with Russia. They have an agreement with Russia that they will intervene in a quote-unquote big way if they are attacked in Syria. So the way that the Assad is talking just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. We're really just trying to get our fingers on the pulse of this. If you listen to the news, you pay attention to how they're spinning all of it, you're not going to get a lot of wisdom out of that. But let's keep our eyes on the ball here. We have new talks of peace between the Iranians and the United States. We have a resolution now with the P5+1 up at the United Nations. That's the permanent 5 members on the UN Security Council plus 1. That's Germany. So altogether, you have the P5 is made up of China, Russia, the United States, the United Kingdom, and France. All of these considered victors of the World War II devastation, with the exception of France, which they were on the winning side, but they were completely devastated. But Germany then is also been added to this. They call it the P5+1, so it's 6. And they have made a deal over Syria's weapons. But as far as why Assad would be so boastful and making statements like this and talking about how he has something greater than chemical weapons, I would just shut up and let them come in and take what they want and leave, not try to, create a brand new situation on the ground by saying, yeah, you can have our, knife because we have machine guns in the closet. You're just creating more of a disaster. So to put it simply, we are seeing a lot of changes occurring in the Middle East right now, and it is evolving, and it's taking on a very different shape than many of us had thought it was going to take. We are not seeing a war in Syria at this point. We're beginning to see a thaw between the Iranians and the U.S. We're beginning to see progress made on this Israel-Palestine issue. And so it has a lot of us who watch geopolitics paying very close attention. Let's see, I have 2 more stories I wanted to share with you. This one should not surprise you. The U.S. has ended a long-running silver market probe. U.S. regulators on Wednesday closed a 5-year investigation into alleged manipulation of the silver market, saying 7,000 staff hours of investigation produced no evidence of wrongdoing. That is, J.P. Morgan has gotten away once again with murder. There will be no further investigation into their manipulation of silver. That is quite a headline for those of you who follow such news. Finally, I saw this article coming out of Reuters. It was from Pittsburgh. The title of the article, U.S. sues company over minors' religious objection to hand scan. I found this interesting. I'm going to read this article and make some comments. It's a pretty short article. It says, a Pennsylvania mining company sued by the federal government on behalf of a worker who refused a biometric hand scan because he believes in the Bible's mark of the beast prophecy, said on Thursday that it supports religious freedom. The Equal Opportunity Employment Commission filed a lawsuit. This is the federal government. Filed a lawsuit against Consol Energy, Inc., stating that Beverly Butcher Jr. had worked at the company's coal mine in Mannington, West Virginia for more than 35 years until he was required to use a biometric hand scanner to track his hours. Beverly must be a guy, Beverly Jr. Consol, with headquarters in western Pennsylvania, was accused of discriminating against Butcher, who repeatedly told mining officials that using the scanner violated his evangelical Christian beliefs, given his view of the relationship between hand scanning technology and the mark of the beast in the New Testament's book of Revelation, the lawsuit said. According to the Christian Bible, the mark is implanted in the forehead or the right hand and symbolizes allegiance to the Antichrist. Though alternatives to hand scans were found for 2 employees with missing fingers, the EEOC claims that Butcher was forced into early retirement because no provision was made for him. The company on Thursday declined to comment on the lawsuit, but said that it did its best to accommodate religious beliefs. The EEOC District Director Spencer Lewis Jr. said the company violated Butcher's civil rights when they obstinately refused to consider any easy alternatives to their new hand-scanning time and attendance system to accommodate Mr. Butcher's religious beliefs. I found this interesting because they are implementing a lot of this kind of technology at many different corporations, and let this be a precedent. The federal government themselves defended someone who took objection to the technology. So very interesting here. Of course, it's a very special set of circumstances that existed. Nevertheless, as we continue to see this encroachment upon our basic rights to privacy through biometric scanning and through eye scanning and whatnot, now you have a precedent. The federal government will at least in this case, stand up for the rights of workers not to be violated based upon their evangelical Christian beliefs. Very interesting for those of us who hold evangelical Christian beliefs and do not like the encroachment on our privacy. Well, we are almost out of time. We're running out of time, and so I want to leave you, as I always do, with our final thought. And this time, it's from Bankruptcy of Our Nation, our book. It's from page 191 and 192. It's about the idea of slavery. When a human being becomes a slave, he loses or willingly gives up the control over his own life to someone or something else. For example, we are slaves to our culture when we go against our better judgment and refuse to question the status quo. We are slaves to religion when we are fearful of questioning the validity of our own beliefs and values and permit others to tell us what we believe and why we believe it. We are slaves to entertainment when our lives are spent in a reckless pursuit of pleasure and a complete avoidance of anything resembling pain. We are slaves to our politics when we adopt political persuasions based upon our culture, the media, or other persuasive individuals or groups instead of from our own deep down inner convictions. We are slaves to a paycheck when we feel trapped in a job that pays us just enough to survive, but not enough to break free financially. We are slaves to money when the pursuit of it becomes our primary obsession. We are slaves to consumerism when the clever marketing messages concocted by corporations and the media dictate our appetites and spending patterns, which then trap us in a vain search for an increased amount of self-worth through the purchase of mere objects. And finally, we are slaves to debt when we sabotage our own financial futures in order to obey the commands of our corporate masters through overconsumption and with borrowed money. And of course, friends, we're living in a country that is a slave to debt. President John Adams once said, "There are two ways to conquer and enslave a nation. One is by the sword, and the other is by debt." And friends, we are living in a bankrupt country. Do not make any mistake about it. We really are. We do not have enough money to pay our bills, and it's going to come back and bite us. Guaranteed. And in fact, we're already beginning to see that right now. That's why it's so important for you to make plans and have a financial plan, have a financial game plan. Get yourself ready to go for whatever lies ahead in this very uncertain time that we're living in. As always, I want to thank you for tuning in this weekend. Thank you for sharing your weekend with me, a little bit of time with me each and every week. It's an honor and a privilege to be a part of your life each and every weekend right here on Follow the Money Weekly Radio. Be sure to check us out on ftmdaily.com, our website. We have a lot of new things going on, a lot of exciting announcements coming up towards the end of the year. Our Income University is still going on. You can certainly sign up for that. Go and learn more at ftmdaily.com/IncomeU, and learn all about our Income University and how you can participate in that, become a FTM Insider, and get access to our Trigger Trade Report and all of the many benefits that our FTM Insiders receive each and every day. Remember, friends, when you want the truth about the global economy, just follow the money. Have a safe and prosperous week, and I'll see you right back here next weekend. God bless.